Sup fams, EEPMON here, and you are tuned in to the Late Night Channel Eps episode 60. And today, I would like to talk to you about the title, not about the tools, it's all about the skill. You heard me right. So, a little story. My current laptop today is a MacBook Pro 2021 M1 processor, and I maxed out the specs out of this thing. It is 64 gigs of unified memory, and it's a 14-inch MacBook Pro, maxed out processor. I think it's got like 10 cores, and the GPU like 30. It's the M1 Max. Okay, so it's maxed out. But prior to that, my previous laptop was a MacBook Pro mid 2010. Over 10 years old, folks. I've been using my previous laptop for over 10 years. Skipped several generations, many generations of MacBook Pro iterations through and straight to the M1 chips. And that specific one was I'm looking at the specs right now. It's a 2.4 gigahertz Intel Core 2 Dual. And at the time, the memory specs said it could only handle like up to 8 gigs of RAM or something like that. But this, apparently, the motherboard chipset could actually handle 16 gigs of RAM. And I have a 500 SSD hard drive plus a 700 gig hard drive that's internal. So I have 2 hard drives inside of it. I basically ripped it apart, added new components, and it lasted me for 10 plus years. Now, there is a conception that having the latest and greatest tools or hardware is required in order to be prolific and to aid you into your maximizing your potential as a creator. I beg to differ. I've been using that mid 2010 MacBook Pro throughout many client projects. I really wanted to test myself to see how far I could stretch that machine. I worked on so many projects, from fashion to comics. I even worked on a couple Marvel projects using that mid 2010 MacBook Pro. And it handled graphical software incredibly. That old machine, I still have the Adobe CS6 like software, the CS6 suite. So I have Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, After Effects, the whole CS6 that was originally on DVD, and then I believe after CS6 they went straight into Creative Cloud or the Creative Suite. The Creative Cloud. And I still have, so I outright own the CS6 software, and I still use it today. And in fact, I have to say, and maybe I think the software company may not be happy to hear this, but honestly, I've been using these tools, these graphical tools, for a long time. Okay, and I can assure you that the fundamental features and tools, such as the pen tool, the layers, the brush tools, all these things, has not changed over the decades. They still do the same thing. And to me, not much has changed at all. The only thing that has changed, I find, and quite curious, is that as there are new versions of the software release, for some reason, my computer, or my mid 10 MacBook Pro performs slower. But on the previous older versions, it is seamless. It is completely, it's quick, it's snappy. So you got to wonder, like, what are they putting in these software? Like, it's bloated software. It's like, I find that as a professional, these added features and added tools are just bloating the software, and they're just adding all these, sometimes I find, very unnecessary bells and whistles when they're not really bells and whistles at all. They don't really improve my productivity whatsoever. I should give a lesson about, tools and fundamentals in using graphical software. But people, if you're using Adobe Illustrator and you understand how the pen tool works, if you are very prolific with the pen tool and understand layers and groups and fills and solids and all that kind of stuff, and understanding paths, that is the bulk of the application. If you're on Photoshop, you understand the brush tools, you understand layers, you understand like this photo touching imagery, all that kind of stuff, then you pretty much know the bulk of Photoshop. After Effects is a motion graphics program, but to its fundamental basic point is that it's Photoshop with a timeline. So you can animate and adjust all the hues, saturation levels, exposures, brightness, contrast, all the filters, like, creating wave effects, particle effects, can be animated on a timeline with many layers. So it's like Photoshop with many layers. But you can import, of course, Adobe Illustrator files, of course, because it's the whole part of the Creative Cloud suite. So it's basically, but that's what it is. So if you wrap your head around these things, really that's what they are, and it has not changed at all since like CS3, even CS1, like CS, the whole Creative Suite, like from the get-go. But it just goes to show that, so having understood this, I want to see how far can I stretch this machine. And throughout the years, I took this laptop all over the world. I was in New York, I was in LA, I went to Japan, I went to Hong Kong, went to Tokyo, Japan. Worked on many client projects, all on that machine. And nothing can be more satisfying for me to accomplish a project with flying colors, using the limitations, quote unquote, limitations of the performance of the machine. At the end of the day, okay, so if you got to do a motion graphic piece, but honestly, not a lot of motion graphic work that I do for clients do not require intense graphic output or rendering output, okay? I'm not doing a feature-length movie here. I'm not doing a crazy 3D render. And, all the graphical software, like I said, like I can work for agencies, I work for clients. This machine, this MacBook Pro mid-2010, can do it. And if you install the necessary hardware, like you improve the load time of booting the operating system, get yourself a solid-state drive, install it. I have a 500 gig solid-state drive, and it boots like that. And I remember, like, again, another funny thing is that I to really test the waters with this old machine. I remember I was in Tokyo, and I had a meeting with these two dudes who were younger, kind of like my generation, who work in these like fancy agencies, and then they know what I do. But when I showed my laptop, I was very curious to see what their reaction would be when I showed my laptop, because they had the latest laptops at the time. I think it was the MacBook Pros with the instead of the F1 keys, F12 keys that had this LED strip, they had those machines. So they thought they were really cool. I come out with this mid MacBook Pro 2010, boom, and they looked at it, and it's decked out with stickers. It's like disgustingly like decked out, and then I was so interested in see what their reaction was, because really it was a measure of me knowing what kind of individuals they were. Were they going to applaud? Were they going to think ill will of me because who is this crazy guy who has this, who's this artist and has this really old laptop? Like, what is this? Who is this guy? Like, so, but I can tell you that most of the time, unfortunately, most of the time, when I met people, who are like these like fly guys and in these agencies, I show my laptop, they would not. It was they were very snobbish. They were like, they couldn't even understand how I could be working with a laptop like that. And because of that, I think they thought that I was just some goof, some goofy artist with a laptop of that caliber, that I wasn't, at their league because I did not have the latest and greatest machine. But the real measure is like, I'm wondering what they're thinking. But there were times that some of them actually like, wow, like they were like, wow, good for you. Like, wow, amazing. You did that with this machine, and they would give me like absolute applause. But those are the ones who know. Those who know. But most of them, when you look at it, it's like you pull up, you have a whole bunch of luxury cars and Lambos and like, Bentleys and stuff like that and BMWs, and you pull up with like this like rusty old, like, I don't know, like old car that's like ancient and not even like at the perceived level of the luxury level. They would scoff at it. So it's interesting. Even the design industry, even the creative industry, there's a lot of hierarchy, snobbishness, and categorization. But those are fun times. But it just goes to show, folks, is that it does not has nothing to do with which version of the software you have. The idea of feeling FOMO because the marketing and all that's telling you need to have the latest software to ensure that your thing is up to date and that it's performing optimally optimized for the best performance. Otherwise, you're going to be blah blah blah. This and that. Like, folks, that's just all. Honestly, a majority of that is really 90% or 95% is like gimmicks. Okay, machine I have right next to me, is still there. In fact, my Mid MacBook Pro 2010, I still use it today. It's sitting right next to me. I'm using a Apple 20-inch cinema display that was released in 2003. I'm not mistaken. It's right next to me. It still works. I have this 500 gig Western Digital hard drive that's connected via FireWire 500. Have you heard of that, folks? FireWire 500? That was like Apple's proprietary connection. I still use that to this day to load my files. Still works. And in fact, I have my machines networked together. They communicate to each other. It's like fantastic. So for like the latest and greatest isn't the be all and end all. It's really about how you apply your knowledge and your skill to the task at hand. You can have whatever creative task it may be, but at the end of the day, it's up to your talent and your skill and your strategy and how to tackle the situation. But when it comes to using the tools, you can be creative about that too. It doesn't need to be the most expensive thing. In fact, you can probably go into a secondhand store and get yourself a laptop that has preloaded Adobe CS5, and you will do extremely well, just as well. In fact, I dare say I prefer some of the older software. I prefer Adobe Illustrator CS6, simply because like the way that the pen tool, the icon, the pen tool, it's a lot more sharper and crisper. Whereas these pen tools in Adobe Creative Cloud Illustrator thingy is like they improved the graphics so much that it's like the amount of pen tool is not sharp. It's like anti-alias and all these other shades. It's unnecessary. Photoshop CS6 is fantastic. Photoshop CS3 is fantastic. They do the job just fine. But now I realized that, of course, it's 2024. Well, it was 2021 at the time when I got the laptop. And I felt that, okay, well, if I'm going to get myself more into video, motion graphics, heavier on like those graphic side of things, and the fact that unfortunately a lot of the new softwares that are coming out, like they're legacy, but like you just have. I felt that it was time to upgrade. So come on, folks. 11 years afterwards, maybe it is time to get I got myself an upgrade. But now I've maxed it out. I have this machine, the MacBook Pro 2021, 14-inch M1 Max. That's going to last me, I hope, for another 10 years. So that's my little story, folks. Again, don't need to have the latest and greatest to do what you got to do. And I will always applaud those who are using these retro machines to accomplish the task at hand. Because, folks, that is that's when you know that you're really leveraging and maximizing your resources. There's a lot of there's a lot of e-waste out there, man. Like there's people who like change machines every single year. Every single year to get a new laptop, every single year to get a new phone. Actually, this phone is my MacBook Pro. No, sorry, my Apple iPhone Pro, like a 12 Pro. Right? It's not the latest one. But prior to this, folks, I had an iPhone 6. So yeah, and again, you don't need to have the latest and greatest. So I thought I'd maybe share that with you. Because we need to be more mindful with the tools we use. And by doing so, I think that it does enlighten and bring into focus our creativity. It shines a light on our true prowess as creators. So anyway, I thought you enjoyed that story. I know it's 17 minutes and 30 seconds in, so it's Friday. I'm just gonna relax a bit. There's a Netflix series I'm watching called Three Body Problem. I know I talked about last episode, but I'm gonna start binging on it tonight. It's fantastic. So I'm gonna keep this short. Have a great evening, have a great afternoon and morning wherever you are in the world. This is the Late Night Channel. If you like what I had to share, please like, subscribe. And share it to your buddies. I really appreciate that. It helps to get the word out of people who want to know more behind the scenes of creative entrepreneurs. Thank you very much, folks. And until next time, bye-bye.